Hello, everybody. This is Mary Gundrum, aka Wellness Mary, and I'm here again with Lauren May from First House Astrology. How are you, Lauren?
I'm doing well, Mary. Hi. Good to see
Hi,
you.
it's good to have you back. Good to have more
You.
discussion. And we were talking a little bit before we got on air, and we were talking about the differences in charts and doing charts for two people, which is the Sinistrian composite chart. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in hearing about that because I have so many people that come to me, and that's like the key thing that they want to know about is relationship. So, how do you go
Same
about
here.
that? What?
Same here. I get
Yeah.
I get a lot of people, yes, wanting that. Yes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So give it a little explanation about how you do those charts because this is new to me too. Because I've never asked you to do that for me. At least I don't
Well,
remember.
yeah. So synastry charts, I do two different charts usually, a synastry chart and a composite chart. I look at both. And when someone is wanting me to look at like a love interest or their boyfriend, girlfriend, or a potential. Um, but a synastry chart is an overlay, and so you have your chart, and then their chart. Or vice versa is laid over it, okay, and it shows where your points match up, and so um, it shows how the you two interact with one another and the day to day and just how you um get along and how attracted you are to one another and how just so many things. So I can see so much in a synastry chart.
So is that just the basic birth chart? Because as we get our charts done periodically, do you take it from the basic birth chart, from the present where they're at? Because for me, psychically, when I work with clients and they want to know about when they're going to meet that someone, there's so many other components involved because we're talking about two individuals and free will, and
Hmm.
we can change things along the way, and there's so many other things that can happen, and was wondering how that works with doing the
Yeah,
chart.
that's a good question. So yes, you first have to look at both natal charts of the people, both birth charts of the people, and really kind of look at what is going on and where they are in their lives and and then look at the two together. And so yes, it's just the one birth chart and then the other static birth chart on top of that one. Okay, and that shows. So in the like if I were to send you a synastry chart of you and another person, it would look like your birth chart, and then there would be another outer wheel around it showing their planets and how they're interacting with yours.
Okay.
So how
Okay.
their energy is interacting with you, with each other. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and so as you were saying that, and when I mentioned about the free will and how there's so many things, I'm sure that there are times where these charts are more synchronistic of each other, that they can really get together and get along and everything is harmonious. But then as things shift, it may not be, because when we look at ourselves, we're going through life and everything is,
Right.
rainbows and roses. And then all of a sudden the cloud comes and the storm comes and the lightning strikes, but that's
Right.
just the way it is. So I'm sure that's what happens in partnerships as well. with the charts I'm talking about.
Right. So yes, I usually if someone comes to me, it's these are fated events. When you meet someone, whether it lasts or not, or whether, it doesn't really matter. It's really
It's
not
the
the
season,
point.
reason, or lifetime thing.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
if you come to me and you have um and bring me another chart of someone else too. If I look at your chart alone, okay, it's going to show me that there's probably a relationship transit going on for you and for that other person. And so it's like there's just a lot of divine timing at play. I don't know what the ratio is of free will to, this
Right.
divine order. We can't understand it right now.
Yeah.
But there's something about, and you can look at, I haven't even talked about progress charts or anything, and you can do progress composite charts as well. And progress charts are um it's kind of your natal chart, but how you're maturing. Okay. So, but anyway, I digress. But so talking about the composite chart that is different from the synastry chart, the composite chart is one chart. It's like you bake a cake with the two natal charts, and it's a midpoint chart. So you take the midpoints and you make a new chart, and that relationship becomes its own. That chart is its own entity. The relationship is its own entity. And there's something about the more serious you are in the relationship, and even in marriage, definitely solidifies it. Your composite, but it's like the natal chart of your relationship, the birth chart of your relationship. And this is where it kind of gets funny. Like, you can have a really good synastry chart with somebody. You can have really good chemistry and like everything you want. And then you can you can see the composite chart, and there's a lot of tough things there that looks like you may not be able to live together.
Right.
It's that like maybe even in the long term. Now, I'm not going to tell anybody that and never have. And, this is where that is not my place to do that.
Right.
Um, I'm going to, I'm very, very careful when I do relationship charts for that reason. You never
Yeah,
know.
because we can't, predict or give a solid because of all the other elements involved. And it's the same thing when I work with people. It's there are probable outcomes, but it's really on what you choose to do that makes the difference of the outcome. So it's not like I always say, I'm not a fortune teller. If I was a fortune teller, I'd have the winning lottery ticket.
Yes,
It
yes,
doesn't work that way. And
yeah,
people in our human minds, we want the answers and we want them now. We want to know,
right.
like, but we're not intended to know things. We're intended to experience and grow and to learn. And it's like always about when am I going to meet my soulmate? Well, a soulmate can be anybody because they come into our lives so we can learn from them or they learn from us or together we learn. At least that's my definition of soulmate versus like a twin flame. And it really is where it starts with you, and I always say when they ask about when am I going to find that relationship, I always say the relationship begins with self.
Yeah.
So we really have to have that unconditional love or true love for self before we can really attract in that divine counterpart.
Yes. So, there are a few points I want to speak on that you just mentioned. So yes, the whole when you said I'm not a fortune teller, I mean, I can relate. I had I had someone come to me a long time ago, really just insistent, um, and wouldn't stop really kind of asking me when they were going to have a bestseller book. And I was just like, hell if I know. Like I
Yeah,
wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I knew how to, do something like that. But anyway, um, the so yes, I think that in terms of the relationship charts that I do, I don't know their level of consciousness. I don't know how much they've grown. I don't know how much they're willing to work on their problems and their relationship issues, So it's like, um, yeah, so it's a tricky thing to do. And I will say this, if it were me and an astrologer told me like this isn't the person for you or this is the person for you or whatever, I'd probably run for the hills. Like that's your choice. That's your decision and
right,
I mean, we can give you information, but it's I don't know. I get a little weird about it. But
right,
so so yes, and there are soulmate um aspects in composites and synastry charts. And but they're always going to have, issues too. It
right,
doesn't mean it's going to be um rainbows every day.
right,
Um,
right.
but it can't, I mean, um, the stuff that's in there, it's just reflecting the energy of the two. And so, yeah. But what
Yeah,
else can
you
I
said the
say?
energy. That's the
Um,
thing.
yeah, I mean, that's all astrology is. It's the math. It's, in my opinion, it's just sort of God's plan in math and geometry.
Right.
And that's what's so fascinating to me because I'm driven by um, finding meaning in that and but again, I'm digressing. Um, but as far as relationships go, it is something, well, I'll say this. It's if I, if it were me and I was, wanting to date somebody new, I would probably want their birth chart. So it is something that like, I don't
Yeah.
know. It kind of cuts out it it just gives you so much information, I don't
So
know.
you had said you used the word energy,
Hmm.
and we know that we're all vibrational frequency, it's everything is
Yes.
vibrating at a different level. And when I work with people, whether it's doing readings or in counseling, I always say, look at the patterns in relationships. Because if we are not doing the work, the healing of any traumas or damage or anything that we're bringing in from childhood in this life, or even things from past lives that could still have some residue in our beings. So because the people that we attract in a relationship are attracted in because they're in the same vibrational frequency. So if you haven't done your housework and cleaned up your inner being, you're going to be attracting in someone with a dirty inner being also, or confused or insecure or whatever the damage is that's there. And I think that's really the key for a healthy relationship is that, so like I said, have that healthy relationship with yourself, but you have to be willing to do the work. And I use this analogy a lot with clients. You picture that you have a wound and the scab is healing and it's look like it's healing, but deep inside the infection is still festering. So you have to have that courage to rip that scab off and dig in deep and clean out. And that's what goes on with us. And an emotional and mental level, we're so good at just putting up these walls and these blocks and pushing this stuff down. And then we're our lives, we wake up one day and we're like, why don't I have that relationship? Why am I not here? Well, you have to get down to the foundation and heal that foundation in order to attract all the beauty in that you desire to have in your life.
Yeah, I mean that's it. It's reflective, and we are our unconscious is, we're it's hard to know like what, again, what the ratio is of, us sort of, you know, what like we are attracting in and what opposite we are attracting in. I always find that kind of fascinating is that, it's like we're healing people, or we're, in relationships with people that have the same issues as us, but um, different as well. It's just kind of a weird, mess. But yes, I think what you're getting at is you have to do shadow work. But
Right.
but yes, but before we get into that, if you want to, the yes, past life relationships are in your synastry and composite charts as well. That seems to be very easy to see. Um,
You can see past life stuff in charts
mhm.
as well.
Yep, you see it
Yeah.
with definitely with aspects to the South Node. Um, and but yes, that what you so I can prove that statement that you made about um we attract in what we are or what we need. I have a Cancer midheaven. Okay, so my 10th house cusp is in Cancer. And so that's my career point. Well, guess what? Rising sign that I see most in my practice. It's a Cancer rising. Cancer risings come to me.
Wow.
And that, you know, that's why. Another thing is, I have something in my chart called a yod. And a yod is, um, they've kind of nicknamed it the finger of God. It's supposed to be a rather rare aspect in your birth chart. There's kind of a lot of mystical stuff around it because it's not really understood that well and what it really does. But it can really do, it can bring a lot of very interesting things in a person's life. But so, like I said, it's supposed to be rare, but guess what I see all the time in my practice? So
Ah,
people come to me with odds. And so when I hear other astrologers, whenever they get my chart and they're like, oh my gosh, you have a yod, it's just, I'm
yeah,
like, well, I see them all the time,
yeah,
but they don't, um, because maybe because they don't have one. So,
right,
you know, I
right.
see that a lot in my practice, and I eventually want to kind of put all of this stuff in an Excel spread and kind of break down um, kind of what I see the most. But yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have clients' charts, but I can tell you that there is either there's scenarios of like my things that I've worked through and healed that come through with clients, so I can really identify with that. Or when I do the ongoing education, I'll pick up a course in the counseling, and the next thing I know, I have that client that needed what I learned in that course.
Yes,
So yeah, yeah, it
yes,
really does happen that way. And it's, and we're all on this journey and we're always continuing to learn and shift and change if we're not stuck, like
yeah,
and that,
yeah,
it's like I love that I can do the work that I do, and I'm sure you are, because you learn each and every time. And whether it's just learning from the person and their personality or something you see in the chart,
Yeah.
there's a purpose on both sides that the people are attracted to us or we are to them. And and we have to have that the ability to be grounded in our truth, but again, we have to know what that truth is, so we have to know ourselves first and to be able to flow, and I just said this to a client yesterday. I said, we are supposed to have goals and plans, but we write them in the sand. So when the universe wants to come and blow a gentle breeze, it's easy to shift a little bit. It's not like it blows you off course, but if you carve it in stone, you're stuck and you can't grow and you can't go. So there's a difference there. And when you look at things in that kind of a flowing with life sense, instead of this is how I'm going to be and this is my expectation, then you have all this disappointment and why me and why didn't this happen. So it's really just go with it and enjoy it, don't fight it.
Well, I mean, that's beautiful, but we're good at that, Mary,
I
going with the flow with
know.
our Leo North nodes. We've got it down. Um,
Yeah.
and so, I just watched I love sport. I don't necessarily like sports, but I like to read about like sports people or athletes and watch um like documentaries on them, and I like an athlete's mentality. I like sort of that um striving for excellence sort of thing that they
Mhm.
all have. But I watched last night, I can't remember if it was on Netflix or what, but it was the Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson. Um, they did a little documentary on it, and they were um, they they showed the part about when Mike Tyson bit Evander Holyfield's ear, and I never really, I always, this is how you learn astrology. This is how I learn astrology, is looking at people on TV and historical figures, and looking at their astrology to um just to learn, and especially about the North Node and South Node placements. But I was watching Evander Holyfield get his ear bit, and I didn't realize that it happened more than once. And he just
Mm.
kept just taking it and was just going with the flow, and was really just kind of unbothered by, he's always just kind of been unbothered by it. And I was just sitting there watching it thinking, like, he feels like I feel like we have a lot in common. I think he's a Leo North Node. And so I looked him up, and sure enough, he had a Leo North Node. He had and I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but since I have you here and you're a Leo North Node too, you know, our past lives, we were kind of used to being nobodies, or
Mhm.
scientists, or, just the watcher on the wall, the observers. And so whenever you know, it's like, so I watched another documentary on like Bo Jackson, who was just this phenom um, athlete. And he had the most tragic story to me. He reached this, high level, could have been just one of the greatest, and had just this freak injury. And just kind of went on his way afterwards and wasn't jaded by it or anything, just kind of, going with the flow, kind of unbothered. And I
Right.
looked and I was like, I know he's a Leo North Node too. And I looked him up, and sure enough. And so, in, in a lot of ways, we just have that in us. You know what I mean? We're just
Yeah.
able to just go with things. We
Yeah.
shouldn't always do it. Like we really do. We've because of our past, we are gifted with being able to kind of go and do what we want and have fun and play and be. We kind of had to grow up early as kids, and so we're allowed to be kids when we're older and
Right.
just play and have fun. And that's the thing, is that we're just so mature and responsible that we're like, well, you know,
Yeah.
and kind of in
I
our
know that
head.
you, and I know that, and it's funny because when people hear Leo, they think, oh, you're all powerful and all strong, and I can easily just go back and, as you said, the watcher, just sit
Yeah.
back, just
Yeah.
observe. I don't have to be the center of attention, but roll with the punches and not get,
Yeah.
upset
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're good at
110%.
that. We seem
Yeah.
to take life a little, we don't take life as personally. We take it seriously because we kind of have these high-minded ideals.
Hmm. And
But
we are a
we don't
healer.
take it personally, not as much.
Because we're the light workers. So we're here. So we take that, we take the importance of life, but we don't take it personally. So
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we tend to, sometimes this can get us into trouble because when someone is in a real fix, like say, like, your extended family is having like a serious, crisis or conversation about something and they want you involved, we don't necessarily want to get involved. We're kind of,
yeah,
this is a very it's not a conscious process, but it's not a totally unconscious process either. I feel like when it's going on in my head, it's like, I'm just going to observe this. It's not cowardice. It's more like I don't even know how to jump into this. I'm watching it and, analyzing what you guys are doing, but really don't understand why you're so emotional about it. But we do
yeah,
need to get into it. We kind of need to we have the largest perspective. We have a kind of a bird's eye view on everything that's going on. And so when we get involved and kind of jump into the messes sometimes to help, cheer people up, that's kind of our role. It's an entertaining role. We have a very entertaining kind of way about us. Think Tom Cruise. He's probably one of my favorite people to use as this example. No one really does it better than he does. Have you ever noticed when he's asked a question that he really doesn't want to be asked? Like, and they go a little too far and he will kind of dress them down a little bit. Um, he just gets into his head and his boundaries are crossed, but he's not necessarily aware that his boundaries are crossed or where his boundaries are until they're crossed.
okay,
Okay. So that's
yeah,
us. And but he does better in an entertaining role. And so that's us. We're better at um, just kind of showing people that, life doesn't have to be like super serious.
right. And that's the thing because me as the spiritual visionary advisor that I am, I look at things at a very divine reason, and this is just here. We're not really a part of this. So I don't get my panties in a bunch over stuff that family members do, like we were just saying. And I
Yeah.
can step back and just be, but you have to be that caring, compassionate human being as well,
Yes.
but not get all
There's the
sucked
thing.
into it. And I
I
find it
know.
funny that you use Tom Cruise because he's probably one of my least favorite people. I don't even watch his movies. So
Really?
when you were talking about interviews, I have no idea because I've never even seen him interviewed.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a Leo North Node like us. And yeah, but well, and I know you don't remember the Oprah's thing when he jumped on the couch.
No.
Okay.
So funny because so many
No.
people
For any,
talk to me about movies, or not movies so much because I do watch movies, but television shows
oh,
and different
wow.
things. Like I have no idea what show that is even, because I'm like, for years I didn't even have a TV. That's
Yeah,
how
I get
little
that.
bit. Yeah, it
I
just
don't,
never. And I like, as far as like news and that type of stuff, I stopped watching that like 2 decades ago. Thank goodness, because I didn't get caught
yes.
up in all the dogma of everything now. But yeah, it's very funny how that you're so similar about how life, we just allow it. And believe me, it's not like I haven't been knocked down or I don't have things that are very disruptive in my life, but they're only disruptive if I allow them in. And that's the difference. And that's what I really work with counseling clients, once we heal the traumas and such, to show them that we don't have to jump into things and let it absorb into us, because it's like, and this is another analogy I use a lot, like you're watching a movie, you're observing it, you don't jump in the screen and get right in the middle of it. And if you look at life like that, as observation, and use that word as well, it does, you don't get so affected. And we have the choice to be responsive or reactive. And that's where, we make that choice. That's where the free will comes in. If you want to jump in and be reactive and get all up in it, then you're going to get all up in it and you're going to spiral out and your inner peace is going to be gone and you're going to get sucked right into it.
Yeah, and I think what you're probably describing is just acting, from an unconscious place, um, but and so yeah, being
Yeah.
reactive is an unconscious response. But um, just briefly to finish my thought, for people watching this that may have a Leo North Node, or people that may know somebody, I'll finish my thought about the Tom Cruise thing when he jumped on the couch, just briefly. So most people see that as being very cringy, and maybe even kind of damaging his career a little bit in some ways. I mean, I don't, um but the thing is, this is a great example of going towards your North Node and how you're going to disappoint people a lot of times when you do it. Okay. So that when he did that, he was actually he was on the path and he was going towards his North Node. So, you know, it doesn't matter that it didn't last with those two. What matters is that when a Leo North Node falls in love, it's kind of screaming it from the rooftops, is, kind of what they're here to do. And he like literally was doing that. And so that was actually very good for him. It was a good thing for him to do. Um, for anyone who's seen his interview with Matt Lauer, that is him in his South Node, and that was not so great. Okay.
Hmm.
So the information that he was giving was very valuable, and very ahead of its time, but the delivery um, was lacking. So so yes, but back to what you were saying, about the acting unconsciously. I mean, it's true. We're I don't know. I think it's just a matter of knowing where we I mean, don't you think, like, when you know that we have so much um I don't know, responsibility, or we have to own our own lives. We're um we can just be aware and be conscious that we're creating these things. And when you do um shadow work, you're going to react less.
Right, right. Because when you said about coming from the unconscious, so the conscious mind, when we're conscious, we're actually only like 5% of the time we're in that conscious mind. So it's the
Yeah.
unconscious mind that is running the show. And
Hmm.
that's where all the damaged program beliefs and all those things that come to play. So that's where the shadow work gets in to that unconscious and helps to reformulate or defrag it or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it. It's a
Yeah.
computer has all these programs. We can factory restore by doing shadow work and get it,
Yeah.
to where it doesn't have all those false beliefs in there or that damaged hardware that all of us have. It's not just one or the other. And it's like, I say about PTSD, a lot of people associate that with vets, but in reality, every single person has some form of PTSD because we've all had traumatic experience.
Yeah.
It's just different levels and how we healed from it and
Hmm.
what we do with it. So, it's like we have to own up to, yeah, there's damage in here. We got to clear that out. We got to take the time to do the work or nothing's going to change. And it can be very painful, very, very painful.
Yeah. It is. I mean, it's in my opinion, and just because of, my own research and what I've, discovered with um, especially looking at the nodes of the moon in people's charts that I've done and kind of figuring out that we don't we come in to this place how we are, okay? And our family and our environment really affirm that. And so, for instance, with my Aquarius South Node, I came into this life that gave me a childhood that matched that energy that I brought in. And so yeah, it doesn't absolve people of things, but other people, but it in my opinion, we so like let me try to give an example. Um the like I came into a family where I felt that I needed to grow up quickly. Okay. I might not necessarily have had to, but for whatever reason, that program is running in me, that
Mhm.
sort of detached, kind of
Right.
nature I had as a child. And so everyone does that. Everyone. And
Yeah,
so we come into this life, and I don't know what age it stops, like when we have this agency, whenever I probably should know that and know when it happens in the birth chart, but um I don't know when, like it's almost like you have to be stuck with your family and early childhood in order to kind of solidify all this, I don't know, trauma or just, your life experiences. And
right.
then, spend the rest of it, you know, going on your hero's journey, your own hero's journey. And so, there would be no lessons in life. I mean, we have to have the dark. We just do.
Right.
They go together.
Right.
And we're, it's just this dance that we're dancing.
Right. And so it's very similar to what I say because I personally feel that we choose the families that we come into. And being that we are light workers or empaths or we have whatever our mission is, that's the family we choose. And sometimes we choose some families that it's really hard, but that's because this journey brings us to where we're intended to be. But if we didn't have that hard family, we wouldn't get to where we're going. But then again, that's where the free will comes in because some of us do work through those traumas and those challenges to raise up and to get to the next level where others aren't ready to. So that's a whole nother thing, because I feel like then you come back and you're kind of redoing it because you didn't get the lesson, you didn't get, and it's like all these challenges are truly gifts for our stepping stones to growth, whether we choose to see that or not. And that's the free will once again. So yeah, it's
I absolutely believe that. And I know it kind of sounds trite to people when I say this, but I really do believe that God only gives you what you can handle. And 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 so when you look at it that way, yeah, it's a blessing. It's a blessing
right.
to like you've picked something hard, and it's
Yeah,
it's your soul is growing. That is so fascinating and very moving to me. I know I tend to romanticize, this process in astrology, but I mean, how can you not? Um
right. Yeah, I agree 110%. And I definitely am a person that took the hardest road. I didn't learn a lot of things the first time around. And, I like to say it took the universe to smack me upside the head with the proverbial 2x4 to really step into what my role was intended to be. And I do think part of that was because I did have these gifts from the time I was a young child, but wasn't like it is today, where it's like socially acceptable. There's all kinds of, events and fairs and things out there. But when I was a child, there was none of that.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, it was just a real scary confusion for me. And I remember even in high school, it was advised that the high school counselor, that I go talk to someone. So I went to this therapist, and her response to me was, "Oh, your only problem is you're too aware." Oh, great. What do I do with that? Like,
Mhm.
so, and that was the thing, because I was so aware of people's energies, and you're feeling all this stuff and you don't know what it is you're feeling, and who do you talk to about it? It's so that was my mission in life, to go through all that heartache and to be able to do what I do today. And if I didn't go through that, I know that I wouldn't be able to do what I do today,
Mhm.
because I'm doing it not just from having the gifts and the education, but I'm doing it also from the experience. I can honestly understand the pain. I can understand what a person's going through, because I lived through something very similar. And there was that reason for that. Like I said about picking up a book to do a CEU, and then the next, that is all the reason why we're here doing what we're doing, because of what we prepared ourselves with to get to this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you just described a lot of your Leo North Node too, which is awesome. Yes, we are too aware as children and very sensitive, and we're not, we're it's for whatever reason we as we age or as we realize that this is an issue, um we have to tell people what we need. We have to tell people what we want and what we need. We're aware of everyone else's wants and needs. We have that innate ability to know. And what happens is that we expect other people to have that same ability, all the 11 other nodal structures. But
Okay.
but they don't. And so that we break our own hearts in that way. We have to actually tell people um our feelings and what we want and what we need. And I think once that clicks, it's like, oh, wow, okay. Because we can get kind of upset that we are able to see what everybody else needs, but I mean, no one is able to see what we can need. We are the absolute hardest to read of all the north nodes. So yeah.
And we, well, I know from me personally, and you can tell me if this is something with the Leo North Node, it's hard to ask for help. And it's
We're
not,
responsible.
yeah,
We're
that's it. It's like,
responsible. We
I'll figure
behave
it
in
out. I can do
responsible
it.
ways usually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm curious if my son has the Leo North Node because he's very independent and it's he doesn't ask for help either. So
Yeah.
and since now I'm back in New Jersey living close to him, he'll be like, oh, you want help with that? Nope, I've been doing it along. Like, and it's like, and it
Wow.
has nothing to do with like ego. It's just that
Yeah.
I take care of myself.
Yeah.
And but
Yeah.
we're really helping each other in a lot of ways now.
That's
I should have
awesome.
I should
Yeah.
have his chart done because I'm curious.
You should.
Yeah,
It would,
my
there's
granddaughter.
nothing more healing to like parents and children, in my opinion. When my parents finally found their birth times and gave them to me, which is actually just kind of a recent thing. I just got my dad's a couple of years ago, and I've had my mom's for a few years, but um when I saw their charts, it was new. They were new to
Yeah,
me. I saw them with new eyes and I understood them. And you can feel, compassion for them and just you just see it all. I see it all.
yeah,
And what's fascinating too, and I'll wrap this up and be brief, but um when my parents went towards their north nodes, it hurt me. It hurt me as a child. Okay. So does that make sense? This is kind of how it can happen.
hmm,
It's sort of the way that it goes. So, um, it's like they're going towards where they were supposed to be going towards, made me able to really solidify that south node in me so that it would give me what I needed later to go towards my north node.
right, right.
So in a way, it's like, God, I mean, we think, and I'm really bad about this and trying to protect my children from just everything. Um,
You
you're gonna
can't.
you're gonna traumatize them the way that in some way. And it might not be like or you're not, maybe not traumatized, but you're going to do things in order to solidify that south node of theirs. Okay. Um, I could give the example of my daughter who has a Gemini south node. I'm a little hard to read, a lot hard to read. And so her Gemini south node, like, trying to kind of gauge me all the time has kind of, solidified that so that she can go towards her Sagittarius North Node in life and trust her intuition. So when
Hmm.
she is sensing a feeling or sensing, kind of an emotion, like if she senses that I'm upset or something, she might not be able to, because I'm so hard to read, she might not be able to know that. But intuitively, since Sagittarius North nodes have, impeccable intuition, like it's just, almost perfect, she's going to learn to trust her instincts later on. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it makes a
Everything's
lot of
just
sense.
kind of happening the way that it's supposed to. It's so weird. I feel like I'm just kind of in on this cosmic joke of it all. It's
Well, and it
um,
is, but that's the thing. It's happening the way it's supposed to happen. And then when we get in that conscious ego mind, uh, we try to figure things out, and that's where what I was saying earlier about just allowing life to happen and not, trying to fix everything or make it be the way you think it's supposed to be. Allow the
mhm.
person to move from their south to their north or whatever that activity that's happening at that time, and we're just always about control, and it's
Yeah.
not about control.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so you did your children's charts, because I was going to ask you that, and we'll wind this up in a few minutes. But
Okay.
I was going to ask you that because, oh, sorry, my phone's calling, so
That's
it's a
okay.
wind up.
I
Um,
didn't hear
oh, good, I was quick on the button.
it.
It's Stranger Things theme song. So
Appropriate.
I was wondering about, is there an age to do it? But I guess there isn't. And if a parent wants to have an infant's chart done, they can have an infant's chart done.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of people that come to me like as soon as their baby's born
Uh-huh.
and send me their birth time. Again, just like with relationship charts, I'm extremely careful.
Yeah,
Um, you don't want to, I just don't want to put things in parents' minds and I don't know, I'm just kind of
because
funny
that
about
gives it energy. That puts, something
yeah,
behind.
it's just, I don't know. Like it's I mean, I can see everything. I can see a lot and stories come together when I, start looking
Yeah,
at the charts, but um I think it's best to stay very surface and when they're very young like that
yeah,
and talk about the good things and then as they get older and you may run into a problem if they come to me and they're having a specific problem, I can pick that out. I can see
yeah,
where that is in the chart. But that's not for me to kind of tell you what their personality is going to be like when they're, just out of the womb. I don't know, but
yeah,
it's I think when they start to, develop some, autonomy and get a little older and are um, you know, it's going to help no matter what, I think.
right,
I mean,
right.
it's to me it um I just understand them so well because I know their charts. It's such a gift to me.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah. It's a gift and it could be a curse at times as well, I'm sure. Like, because we see things and then we're like, yeah, oh,
yeah. I mean, you see
yeah,
how they can, how they can, might be operating in their lower level of the energy, but
right.
um, you understand it and can help them, adjust.
Maneuver. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So, Lauren, we're going to have to do this again because we have so many other topics that we
I
can touch on.
know. I
This was really
know.
good today. I
I
feel like we covered
know. We
a
do
lot
well
of,
together, Mary.
yeah, I think we covered a lot of helpful information for those out there. And I have failed of putting the website links because I'm putting this on my YouTube channel. Not that
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of activity on there, but I'm building that up. So I will put the links for your
Okay.
website there.
Sure.
But I'm sure when you shared it, your links are out there as well.
Yeah, maybe. God, it's just not my
All you have to
strong
do is
suit to do
look up
any of that.
first house astrology, and you'll find her. You'll find
Okay. Yeah,
Lauren
that'll
and
work.
Wellness
That
Mary.
works.
You'll find me. It's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
So thank you so much,
Thank
and
you.
everybody who finds this video, it's on purpose that you're listening to us. And I will see you next time. Okay, take care.